Hi guys, Chilifreak here, and welcome to PoeTential, the Path of Exile guide series to help you reach your goals with your build. As always, I am joined with my good friend Crispy.
Hello!
Now, in this series, we take a look at footage sent in by our viewers and give our take on how you can improve both your performance and build setup to reach your goal. And every episode will feature one popular build with a specific goal in mind. But before we present today's topic, I just want to express that we are both well aware of the fact that 3.0 is right around the corner, and a lot of big changes are coming very soon. Now, with that said, we do not believe that today's topic will be subject to a lot of change. So today, we're going to look at footage sent in by the Legend 27. His build is a Varunastra Gladiator, and the goal is to farm Uberlab. So we'll start by looking at the footage, and then we'll look at skill tree and gear, just like last time. Now, if you want to send in your footage and potentially be featured in one of these videos, then follow the instructions that are on the screen. Alright, let's roll the clip.
Okay, so here's the offering to the goddess that starts off Uberlab. And I'd just like to stop here and say that this clip is about 7 minutes, and 7 minutes is a fast time to do Uberlab in. It's not insanely fast, but I would say it's alright. So yes, using his auras there, and he's shield charging, which is an okay skill to use in open areas, and he's very fast in open areas, but as you all know, it stucks in places, which isn't all too nice.
Interesting in the background. Anyway, yeah, I think a better alternative would be to use either Whirling Blades or Leap Slam, probably the best alternative, because there's a lot of things that will hinder your movement with shield charge in Labyrinth. It's also not very good if you get stuck in traps and something like that, so it's not the recommended mobility skill if you're farming Uberlab.
Yeah. I would say that Leap Slam is probably the best of the Whirling Blades and Leap Slam, because there are a lot of areas here that have different levels, or maybe a thing hindering your movement that you have to jump past, or traps you gotta jump past, and then Leap Slam is a lot better. Usually it's pretty slow, but in the lab area it's actually probably the most effective movement skill. Of course you could use like Whirling Blades and then Lightning Warp through some objects, but I'd say that Leap Slam is the best. As we also can see here is that he is killing a lot of mobs in this run, which isn't all too nice, because if we're talking about farming Uberlab, it's all about efficiency, and efficiency is basically getting as much out of it as possible is in the least amount of time.
So what you're doing here, for example, isn't really... Well, maybe it's actually to activate a shrine. I don't know. But that doesn't always give treasure keys. And it might make the lab run very risky. Because you don't know what mods you're going to get from a dark shrine. But we'll wait and see what reward you get for this, but you're spending a lot of time here.
Yeah, usually when walking with a thing like this, where you gotta stay close to it for a long amount of time, for me the thing I get out of it is usually trash. Well, we want to get this for gold keys, at least, as quickly as possible. This is not getting us to the gold keys, I think.
No, that's a shrine. That's a shrine.
Yeah, it's a shrine. Yeah.
And you got... What did you get for that? 100% extra damage is cold.
And some quantity.
And quality. No.
Does this quantity affect chests and things like that? I don't think so. Does it?
The treasure... yeah, they do. Quantity is a really good roll, but 10%, I don't know. And the time you spent there...
And 100% extra damage as cold is quite risky,
that's only gonna hurt. I don't think you'll get any benefit out of that, actually.
Yeah, and he lost a lot of time, probably 1.5 minutes or something.
So efficiency is key if you want to farm. Whatever you want to farm, really, efficiency, but definitely in Uberlab. and that's not what we're seeing here.
No, because you're not here to kill monsters. You're not here to level. You're here to get as many keys as possible, get the enchantments on a helmet, and then sell the drops you get.
You need to get into the proximity shield there if you want to.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I think what is here, maybe not ran too many proximity shields, but those are you gotta get inside of it to actually do damage, or the totems will be immune. And here, these green areas actually make you take damage when you use the movement skills. You need to be kind of careful there.
Well, you got the golden key at least, but I'm seeing right now that you only have 3.7k life, which is gonna be very difficult if you want to be farm Uberlab. It's not a reliable life pool if you want to seriously get something out of your Uber runs. It's gonna be very difficult. So that's something we'll definitely have to look at when we get to the gear and skill tree part.
Yeah, and if we look at the flasks, we don't have flasks that actually help against traps and such. The Lion's Roar give armor, but it doesn't give flat physical damage reduction.
Oh, right.
Which is basically what you want to not take damage or much damage from traps.
Yeah.
Also, we can say that it has passed like 5 minutes into the Uber run.
And
we haven't killed the first phase of its Zara.
Yeah, so it's
and
not.
And that is it's not 7 minutes for the whole kill. I think something is probably gonna happen. So in this amount of time, people can be done with the whole Uberlab. So this is the time frame we're talking about when Uberlab farming. It can go very quickly. Here's Argus, and it's a very important guy to kill because he gives 1 extra key. But it's also very dangerous, just as Itzara.
Yeah, and here's where your low life pool gets in the way. Okay, so that's what happened. I see. You didn't make it to the first trial then. Okay. All right. Now we've seen the clip. There are still some things that we can say just from watching this. I think the most important issue here is your life. You have way too little life. You need to address that, but we'll talk more about that when we've seen your gear and skill tree, because that's where those changes will happen. And then I also think you touched on this, Crispy, the fact that you don't have any flasks that give a flat physical damage mitigation, which is something that can be very handy to have in Uberlab because of all the traps. And also against the Itzaro fights. Flat physical damage reduction and armor is both helpful in the Itzaro fights, but since you're a gladiator, you'll get block mostly, right? You get the block converted to spell block node, for example.
It's very block heavy.
And that will help you avoid damage, but it won't mitigate any damage. And that's the thing. That's sort of a all or nothing situation, which is risky. And we generally don't want lab runs to be risky. We want them to be safe and reliable. It's very important. The efficiency is a really big issue, because when you're running and clearing all the mobs, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. As Crispid said, it's about you can run an Uberlab in 5 to 7 minutes. If you're really fast, because you don't want to even care about the mobs. The only thing you really want to care about is, well, killing Argus, I guess, and then of course when you face Itzaro, you leave all the buffs on so that you get more treasure keys. Now, there's actually something I want to mention here, because I don't know if you know about this, but there's a really great guy called PoeLab. He does a lot of videos, and he even has his own website where he details a lot of important things about the labyrinth. Like, for example, the different phases that Itzara has, and the weapons he can use. And this varies from day to day. Even the layout of the labyrinth varies from day to day. And if you want to farm efficiently, you obviously need to know this. What layout is it today, and what are the Itzaro phases and so forth, and which ones of these, because some of these phases are really difficult, and you should try to avoid the days when Uberlab is that difficult, because again, you want it to be reliable, you want it to be safe. There's a lot of information listed there. I don't know if you've seen it, but I think it's definitely worth your time if you want to seriously farm Uberlab to go check us out. A big shout out to him. He's a great guy who's put all of this stuff together for us. So I think those are the major points that we can talk about from this clip. But I think it's about time we move on to the other parts now, the skill tree and gear. As always, when we look at skill tree and gear, we use software called Path of Building. It's a great theory crafting software, the best one out there, where you can plug in a character as long as you have their account and character name. You can get all their specs so long as they're public. That's very important. And you can even do your own damage calculations to see, okay, if I put in this unique item, what damage would I do? Etc. You can do lots of different things to theory craft, and that's why it's such a good software. So the calculations and things that we'll be looking at today, will make that available via a code that we'll put in the description. You can just import this code.
Yeah, what you can do is you go into import, as we see here, and then there is build sharing, and you can then import from paste bin, as you can see here. So you just click on that, and you take the paste bin link that we supply to you, and you click import, and then you'll get the build. Alright, so here we have your skill tree. It's pretty exciting. You're running a gladiator, and the thing about gladiator is that he has a lot of blocks. You convert here all your block to a spell block, or no, you don't convert, you actually add it with versatile combatant in the gladiator tree. And then you have Pain Forged, and it adds also block if you have damage, or if you have gotten a hit recently. And when you're blocking, it also counts as a hit. And then you have some bleeding and exploding when you kill targets. I think it's nice for area clear, but it doesn't really help you in the lab environment. The thing about making a build to a lab is that you gotta adapt quite heavily, because you want to actually gain currency running the lab. You don't want to go ±0, or you don't want to lose currency. You actually want to gain. So you need to be effective. You have a lot of block nodes, or you have some block nodes in your tree. Not too many, actually. The thing about, I think some traps can be blocked and some traps can be spell blocked. But I don't know those damage over time traps, if they actually can be blocked. I don't think so.
I'm not sure.
Generally I would actually recommend getting something that gives you flat physical reduction. And the ascendancy class that will give you that is Juggernaut. It's really nice for that. And also because it gives you endurance charges. So every endurance charge gives you 4% physical damage reduction. And then the new Oak in 3.0 will give you 2%. There will be some Pantheons that give physical damage reduction, and so forth. So that is very powerful, and it stacks on top on each other. And you don't have too much life regeneration. We're gonna search here. Yeah, you have like a couple of percent. Yeah, you gain 130 life regeneration per second. But it's not too much at all.
No.
And your life pool, as we see in the software, is only 3,700. That's quite low. And it's possible to get a lot higher. I know Mathel did a Varunastra build and he got like 5 or 6k, something in between there.
Yeah. But then again, it's Mathel. He has insane gear. He also used Belly of the Beast. But it's possible to get a lot more life. I think the Scion Ring here, that's to the top left of the starting point for the Duelist class, is somewhere you could think about heading. It's a lot of passive points to invest, of course, but I know that Mathel, I think for at least one of his Varunastra builds, he did actually go there, and I think it's worth considering, at least because you have so little life. And then of course there are jewel slots also. There's a jewel slot on the way there, and there's a jewel slot to the top right. Maybe that's a bit too far to go, but then there's a jewel slot that you haven't put anything in. That's interesting. Here in the ranger area. You should definitely try to get your jewels. And of course, there's the benefit of having Varunastra. You can have jewels with, damage on claws, damage on melee, damage, lots of different damage, and it'll buff you. But that's not the important thing here. You need to get the 7% increased max life. I think that's the most important thing to look for.
Yeah, it's the max roll on jewels, but those are pretty cheap. And just because you can combine it with any melee type, it's quite easy to get, and it doesn't have to be expensive at all. And there's also, more life quite closely to get. What is nice to see here is that you've taken iron reflexes. It makes it easier to stack armor, but then again, I'd like to see your auras to combine with this. You can use grace, you can use determination to drive up your armor to high levels, and this will protect you somewhat against one-shots. It will not help against the traps, I think, because those go only on flat physical damage reduction and not armor.
That's true.
Yeah.
The thing about the Varunastra build is that it's a very passive heavy build, because you want to take all these damage nodes, especially the Deadly Dilettante. This is, the godly nodes here for the Varunastra build, because you get, Math will call it triple dipping, but you can't really call it that because it's 3 effects that add to each other, because all of them will affect the Varunastra. But the point I'm trying to make here is just that there are a lot of points you want to take when you have Varunastra. I want these nodes, I want these nodes. But you really can't forget the importance of life nodes, because especially when you want to farm Uberlab, it's so important to have a reliable build if you actually want to gain something from doing it. But to sort of sum it up here before we leave the skill tree, just consider going the path up to the Cyan life nodes and fill your jewel slots with life, and that will at least give your life somewhat of a boost. And this will of course mean you have to maybe remove some of your damage nodes, but it's well worth it, because damage isn't what we want necessarily. We want reliability. Is there anything else you want to add, Crispy?
No, not more than he has actually completed Uberlab before, which I find surprising. Many doing my build if they've gone cheap. They are complaining about, I have like 5.5k life and I'm dying at Uberlab all the time. Can't do it. But he has actually done it with 3.8k life, which I find quite remarkable.
Skill, man. It's all skill. It's all skill. Pure. I know.
So
he
you're
got carried.
Very good. You're very good that I actually have completed it with 3.8k life. I find that quite amazing. We can move on to the skills, which we talked about Blade Furrow, which he uses. It's not much to say here. If we look at the damage output of a Blade Flurry, if we take it to the 6th stage, it does around 40k damage per second, and then he releases it, so maybe 80k, and then he can use concentrated effect. Then it goes down to 50. Okay, so maybe it makes about 120k damage per second, and that's enough to kill Uber Itzaro. It's not an issue at all. The damage is not the issue here. It's about the survivability, as we mentioned before. Then the auras, as we mentioned before, he can switch those to grace and maybe determination. And for golem, he uses actual flame golem. I would use something like stone golem probably for life regeneration, or maybe the chaos golem for flat physical reduction. So that's what I would do. And then about shield charge, we talked about that. We would like leap slam there. And he can actually have, a secondary weapons in his weapon switch, which have a very fast attack speed, and just leap slam around with those, and then switch to his Varunastra on Vitsaro. Alright, and that was all for the skills, I think. Should we go to the items? What do you think?
I have nothing more to add. I think you've summed it up really good. Let's go to the gear.
Yeah. So he uses Varunastra, as we've talked about before, and it counts as all one-handed melee weapon types, and that's probably why he does this build. We talked about it's quite passive heavy, but it does good damage, as we've seen. Then he uses a shield that I don't find too nice. Duresus Courage.
No.
It gives 120% block chance when on low life. It won't really help him. Because when he's on low life, he's close to dying. Yeah, and he can get unfortunate. No, I think this is quite a bad shield, actually.
Yeah.
I would like you to use something else. Maybe something that increases your life pool.
Well,
We
I
can
think
actually take a look at some shields. What do you
yeah,
think?
yeah, because I know that at least 2 shields that are really good alternatives there. I do not know the price of them, but I know Mathil has used both of them for his Varunastra Gladiator. So there's the Lionized Remorse, which is basically what you want because it has, I think it's up to 180 max life, something like that. They increased the roll in the recent patches, so that's why it's actually become viable if you just want to get out of your life pool. And then there's another shield called the Surrender, I think. Yeah,
the Surrender.
Yeah, and the good thing about Surrender is it has some synergy with the Gladiator because you recover 250 life when you block, and you block as a Gladiator. So that would be really good.
And it has a big amount of armor. You get plus 1,500 armor if you've blocked recently, and the life roll on it is real nice as well. And it also grants Reckoning, and on Reckoning you can link that to, life gain on hit and increase those 250 life to maybe 300 life on every block. So it's quite powerful, but it's also very expensive. Lionized Remorse, on the other hand, is very cheap. So Lionized Remorse on the first hand, and then maybe Surrender when you get some currency.
Money. All right, let's move on to the helmet then.
The helmet is quite nice. It has 93 maximum life. It's not much to say about. The armor is okay.
A good life roll and dual res.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking for. Maybe some accuracy rating, but no.
The armor has quite a low life roll, and I think it's 5 linked.
Yeah.
So it isn't really the dream. Those can be quite cheap. You can use Essence of Greed to roll a high life roll on a chestplate. You can buy already 5 link or 6 link in a roll Essence of Greed. When you've saved for some currency, we'd really recommend Belly of a Beast.
That's what Mathil uses. And it's good. It is actually good. It gives you some elemental resistance, but more importantly, it gives you a lot of life. And of course, the 6 link Belly of the Beast might be a bit too much, but it's not really necessary because the 5 link will do damage wise. It's more important to focus on getting your life up.
Maybe even a 4 link will do,
Yeah.
So the important thing here is to get your life up, and Belly of the Beast does just that. And the thing about it's not just what Mathil makes, because he usually aims for lower life builds. So we actually need to surpass the amount of life he gets and maybe get some lower amount of damage output. That's the aim when doing Uberlab.
All right.
When it comes to the gloves, it's a really low life roll. I'd really like to get it up maybe 80 life and maybe roll some strength on it to increase the life even further. Boots are nice on the life roll, and you don't need movement speed on those because you'll leap slam all the time. It isn't affected by movement speed.
You also have the nice enchant mod here, where it allows you to leech life if you killed recently. But just keep in mind that in Uberlab, if you're gonna farm it, you're not gonna kill a lot of things. You're mostly gonna speed past it, so you won't get any life leech from this.
Yeah, for you it's kind of useless in this case. It's a really nice mod in other scenarios, but in this scenario it's When it comes to the amulet, it's no life roll on it. I don't like that at all. You need to have life on every slot because you need to bring that up. When it comes to the first ring here, it's also no life. We'd like life on that as well.
And the second
accuracy.
ring, no life. Oh. You need to get life on your jewels here. All your jewel slots. Anyway, sorry I interrupted you.
No, he really needs to get some life on everything. Also the belt, he could use a leather belt. You don't need the damage output of a rustic stash. In this scenario, you need more life.
You can get a leather belt here, for example. That will give you even more life. Or a heavy belt, you get strength. So either way, just life, man. You need
We
life.
talked a bit about flasks. We'd like a basalt flask here. It gives 20% damage reduction because it helps against traps and such. Lion's Roar I think is nice because you can use it on Itzar and it will increase your damage by a lot. Azir's Promise, I'm not so sure, maybe. But more life flasks, and you don't need a Quicksilver. You don't need a
Silver flask, no.
Silver flask. Probably not. You know, you can get your speed up anyways. You know, if you have a pair of secondary weapons with high attack speed. So get life flask with instant recovery. That's what I would get. And
Yeah,
maybe
you need
one life flask
Instapots.
with slow recovery. And we talked about the jewels before. You know, it's nice that it has a lot of damage on it, but we don't really care about that. You need to have life on your jewels. So replace one or two of those mods with a high life roll. I would say at least 6% and maybe 7%.
Definitely.
And that was all about your tree and gear. I'd also like to show you what you can do to increase your life pool. As you can see in your skill tree, you're using 103 points. And you have around 154% increased life and 3,700 as a life pool. Now, leveling will help you a lot, but let's say you would not level. Well, we can go to my life version of a build, which uses actually 102 points, so 1 point less. And if you look at what you get from the tree, it's quite similar, 158%, so it's maybe, what was it, a 5% increase? But what I've done here is I've gotten 2 jewels with 7% increased maximum life. And also, on all the gear pieces where we talked about get some life, we got life on those. And we got high rolls of life. And that's the most important thing. So all rings and belt and everything, we got life on it. I actually didn't get a leather belt. Then Belly of a Beast with a higher roll. You know, a 4-link maybe is enough. And by making those differences, we actually got the life pool up to 5,900. And the damage output is a bit lower. Now it's 11,500 per hit instead of 15,000, but that's okay. Now you can make it to Itzaro instead of dying on things before Itzaro. So it's still, you know, 6,000 life is still not a lot when farming Uberlab. It's quite on the low side, but it's a lot better and takes you a lot closer to your goal to being able to farm Uberlab.
All right. I hope that the things we've talked about today is going to help you reaching your maximum potential with this build, and we'd love to hear from you when you've tried to make some of these changes. If you actually succeed in running Uberlab, would be really great to let us know. But for now, I think we're ready to end this episode. It goes without saying, of course, that any opinions we have voiced today are not final. If there is anything that you disagree with or think we should have mentioned, any thoughts on the matter are welcome in the comment section of this video, because we want a discussion about these things. That's how we all learn. And now, if you want to send in your footage and potentially be featured in one of these videos, then again, follow the instructions on the screen. It would be really great to see your footage, guys. We're very curious to see and want to help you as soon as possible. So please, don't be shy. Just send it in. And finally, thank you guys for watching. If you like what we're doing, then remember to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next PoeTential. But that's it for today. Have a good one, guys.